What's up, y'all? My name is Jacob Thornton. I'm a Christian. I'm a member of the body of Christ, which is the Church of Christ, having believed and been baptized for the forgiveness of sins. And the Lord added me, the Spirit placed me into the body of Christ. And so one of the topics today that I just want to bring up for a moment is the topic of, the 70 AD doctrine. Individuals believe that Jesus returned in 70 AD, but there are some good brethren who still don't believe that Jesus returned in 70 AD. But what I do find them doing is misusing this passage, and it gives leeway to those who do believe that Jesus returned in 70 AD, and they say, look, you see that Jesus spoke here about coming in judgment upon Jerusalem in 70 AD, so why can't you see that elsewhere also? But I want to bring up that this Bible verse here in Matthew chapter 26 has nothing to do with Jesus coming in judgment upon Jerusalem in 70 AD. And it's a passage that is highly taken out of context. And in Matthew chapter 26, we see that Jesus is on trial. And Jesus is having accusations made against him about destroying the temple and raising it up in 3 days. And the high priest is speaking to Jesus. And in Matthew chapter 26, beginning in verse 23, but Jesus held his peace, and a high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. What did the high priest want to know? Is Jesus from his own mouth, can he get him to say that he is the Christ, the Son of God? That is the whole point of this passage, and we're going to see that proven from it. The very next verse, Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said, Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Individuals say, look, Jesus responded and says, I am the Son of God, and you're going to see me come in judgment against your city. That's not what Jesus was referencing here. It's not even how the high priest nor the Jews who heard understood Jesus' sayings. So the very next verse, then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. Then did they spit in his face and buffeted him, and others smote him with the palms of their hands. Notice right here, this is the important part. This is what you want to pay attention to, because individuals say, this is Jesus saying he was going to come in judgment upon Jerusalem. That's not how they understood it. Look what they said. What did they say? Saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Who is he that smote thee? He was asked a question. Jesus was asked, are you the Christ, the Son of God? And he says, you said it. Nevertheless, I say. And then what does Jesus do? He quotes Daniel 7. The Jews knew Daniel 7 is about the Messiah receiving all authority. That's what they were waiting on. The Jews knew that Daniel chapter 7 was about the Messiah, the Christ. Now, they might have not understood the contents at that time of the message in Daniel 7, but they understood Daniel 7, the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, who would receive an everlasting kingdom where all nations would submit to him. They knew that was the Messiah, and so Jesus is asked this question, are you the Christ? And what does he do? Jesus quotes Daniel chapter 7 and says, I'm going to fulfill that. I'm the Son of Man. In Daniel chapter 7. And what did they say? Prophesy to us, thou Christ. That's what they understood. And so we'll get into more conversation in this in another video. But I do want to point out is that individuals give other false teachers more wiggle room, because a lot of individuals misunderstand the passages. If you understand that this is a reference to Daniel 7, and Daniel chapter 7 is not about 70 AD, then you won't give any room whatsoever for individuals to look at this and say, Jesus is saying he's going to come in judgment upon Jerusalem. Because that's not what Jesus was referencing here. Jesus was quoting, alluding to Daniel chapter 7, when they said, are you the Christ? And he says, yes, I am. Daniel 7. I'm going to fulfill that. And you're going to see that. So, in the first century, did the Jews witness Daniel 7 be fulfilled? Yes. The first century Jews witnessed Daniel 7 be fulfilled. And it had nothing to do with the destruction of Jerusalem. Thank you for your time. Did you used to think that this passage, because I was taught that, till I examined it for myself, a lot of information you just believe by default because somebody that you trust has told you. And where did they get it? Well, they got it from someone else who they trusted by default. So the goal is to examine the information that we're told, keep the good information, throw the bad information away, because all we want is good information. And Matthew chapter 26 verse 64, the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven, that's not a reference to the second coming. It's not a reference to Jesus coming in judgment upon Jerusalem. It's a reference to Daniel chapter 7, Jesus saying, I am the Son of Man. I am the Christ from Daniel chapter 7. And I'm going to fulfill that. Thank you for your time. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment whether you agree or disagree. And I would love to hear a topic, a Bible verse, something which you would like discussed next. Have a nice day.